So, Keir, yeah, Rwanda. There we are, another word that's been bandied around, and we talk about illegal immigration here. Now, you have said that if you get in, then you will reverse that. There will be no Rwanda deal, which is fine, but deportation of illegal immigrants is a physical process.
Yeah.
They arrive with no passports, so the process can't really begin. It's going to be long drawn out, but they are illegal immigrants into this country. If it is a physical process, what are the Labour Party going to do to actually deport these people, and where to?
Yeah, well, look, thank you for raising that, because this is a really serious issue. As Harry put to Rishi Sunak, the numbers this year of people crossing in small boats are record numbers under this government, and nobody but nobody should be making that journey across the Channel. Nobody. It's a breach of our borders. It's also, I think, a matter of national security, because the government should be deciding who comes to this country, and we need to know who it is that's coming to this country. So we have to deal with it. I take it very seriously. I accept it's a test of government, which I think they're failing, but it is a test of anybody who wants to be in government. And I've looked very carefully at this. There are criminal gangs that are running this trade, making a fortune putting people in those boats, and we have to take those gangs down. Now, Jonathan, before I was a politician, I was the chief prosecutor for England and Wales for 5 years, prosecuting all of the cases in our criminal courts in England and Wales. But I had to deal with things like terrorism, where there were very serious gangs running terrorism, sometimes in this country, which we had to smash, but also involving countries in Europe. We put together law enforcement, police, security and intelligence teams, and we took those gangs down. These were very sophisticated terrorist gangs. I do not accept that it's impossible to take down the gangs that are running this vile trade. And that's why, in the first few days of government, if we're privileged to come in to serve, we will set up a border security command, a new command, with counter-terrorism powers to work on that. I've done it before. I know how it's done. I think it can be done again, and that way we can stop people coming here in the first place. On the question of returns, because you raised that, which is very important, the number of people being returned to where they came from has dropped off by 44% under this government. So on the first few days in government, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put the staff back in the returns unit. I'll make sure that we've got planes going off, not to Rwanda, because that's an expensive gimmick. They will go back to the countries where people come from. That's what used to happen.
Where? I mean, it's so hard to do.
Well, at the moment, people coming from countries like Bangladesh are not being removed because they're not being processed.
You're still not going to stop the boats.
Well, the only way to stop the boats is to smash the gangs that are putting people in boats in the first place.
Is it really the only way? Because the National Crime Agency have made very clear. The National Crime Agency have made very clear that a deterrent is also required. Not just the work they're already doing, and there is already a border command, really, isn't there, in the Home Office?
No,
you want to bring in, I accept you want to bring in the security services, who are already stretched, but I accept you want to widen it. But isn't the point you need a deterrent? You need a deterrent as well as the returns. That is what the experts are saying.
Yeah, but
what's your deterrent going to be?
A deterrent to not go to Rwanda. At the moment, people know that if they get here, they're basically here for life.
Well, that's what
because
you said,
they're not being processed.
The problem is...
No, hear me out, Harry. This is really important. Tens of thousands of people are here not processed. They're here for life. That's not a deterrent. If it was a deterrent, the numbers wouldn't be going up. They're going up.
Just one thing on that. They arrive and they have destroyed their passports and identification documents, so they cannot be processed.
Yeah.
So where are you going to send them to if you don't know where they've come from?
At the moment, some of them are processed.
Well, some of them... Well, I'm going to give you a stat. Let me give you a stat.
Let me deal with that, because it's a really important point, and I respect it. Under the last Labour government, we were returning people to their country of origin. Of course it's difficult. Of course you've got to establish where they came from. But you can return people to their country of origin in very many cases. The number being returned has gone down 44%, and we need to address that. But the most important thing, in my view, is stopping people coming in the first place. We've got to stop this trade across the channel. This is... No, I know. That's why we need to work with other countries. When we had terrorists... I mean, I take your point, sir, completely.
Yeah.
When we had terrorist gangs operating, they too were operating across European countries. So we worked with other countries in Europe. We shared intelligence, we shared data. I've been in the room when we've done this. We shared a strategy for then arresting everybody in different countries at exactly the same time, because you can't arrest someone
Just for the rest of the audience who can't hear, the gentleman in the audience said that the gangs aren't in this country, so how are you going to do it?
Yeah, no, they're not, and that's why we need to set up this border security command, which will operate across different countries. But just to explain, in the terrorist cases, which is why I passionately believe we can do this, we shared the data, each country, as to what they knew, the intelligence, all sitting in one room with with big data panels, then agreed a strategy, how we're going to take this gang down, then an arrest strategy, because if the French authorities don't arrest someone at exactly the same time as the authorities in Germany or London, then it doesn't work. I've seen that done in relation to terrorist cases. I simply don't accept people who say the only gangs that can't be taken down are apparently these smuggling gangs. I don't accept that. I think it can be done. I've seen it. I've been part of it, which is why I'm confident it can be done. I agree we've got to do things on returns, but the first thing we've got to get security back to our borders, because at the moment the government's lost control of our borders.
Your policy currently is to process, I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to process everyone who's already here. Is that correct?
We need to process
because you're going to abolish the bills
here.
that the acts the government have passed.
Yeah.
There is a 65% grant rate on asylum proposals. If you were a migrant, I know we're not allowed to talk about betting in politics, but if you were a migrant, you'd take those odds, wouldn't you? 65% chance of getting here and staying. You basically, by saying you're going to process everyone, you're creating a draw effect, aren't you?
The odds at the moment are 100%. Because this government is not... Now, hear me out, Harry, this is really important. This government is not processing the claims.
But you've said you're going to process all those people who are currently not able to...
There are 50,000 people here not being processed. If we carry on with Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister, it will get to 100,000 by the end of the year. They're not being processed. The one thing we know if you're not processed is you can't be returned anywhere. So you're staying here. Who's paying for the accommodation for those 50,000? You are. Who's paying the hotel bills? You are. Are we going to do this forever? This is such an absurd position for the government to have got in. At the moment, all of those who shouldn't be here should be sent back. Many more were sent back under the last Labour government. At the moment, the number being sent back, if you're not processed, the one thing you can't do is send people back, is a 0% under this government. And you are paying the bill. I think this is outrageous. You're paying the bills in hotels for people not to be processed who can't... They're here for life at the moment, and that's why it's not a disincentive. If it was a disincentive, why are more people coming this year than last year? It's record numbers. I mean, the Prime Minister said that even passing the Rwanda legislation, him saying it will bring the numbers down, it's had the complete opposite effect, because people know if they can get here by any means at all, they're not going to be processed, they're going to be in a hotel paid for by you. What's not to like? How can that possibly be thought to be an incentive or disincentive for people to come here? It's not working, and we've got to wake up to the fact that it's not working.
You've made the point.
Put in place a border security command that can stop the breach of the borders in the first place.
Let's move on. Let's change the subject, shall we? I mean, you can understand people's anger out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.